the 3PL reset, why many SME brands are rethinking their fulfillment strategy. So for years, outsourcing logistics to a 3PL has been the default path for growing companies. It promises scalability, flexibility, and operational relief. But today we're seeing a shift. More and more companies are starting to ask new questions. Is outsourcing still the right model? Should we bring fulfillment back in-house, or is the answer somewhere in between? These questions are driven by real challenges, such as rising costs, integration complexity, limited visibility, and increasing customer expectations. And to explore this, we brought together two speakers with different but highly complementary perspectives. The first one is Bas Dubbeldam from Fix Logistix, who works with brands across the US and Europe, helping them design supply chains, select 3PL partners, and improve logistics performance. And as you can see, I couldn't help but bringing this picture from Bas's LinkedIn profile. It has been in the family for many years. I guess Ari here is Bas's uncle back in 29. And the other speaker is Otto Spaan, Chief Commercial Officer at Rapid Logistics, also with a long history, although I cannot document it in the same way. A Dutch 3PL, Rapid Logistics, a Dutch 3PL providing European distribution and value-added logistics services. And briefly, my name is Dennis Zachariasen, and I'm the co-founder at Bizbrains, where we work with an integration platform called Link, helping companies automate and connect their logistics processes and many other processes as well across systems and across partners such as customers and providers of goods and transportation and various other things. Before we begin, a quick practical note. We would very much welcome your questions, but please use the Q&A section for these questions and not the chat, but the Q&A section. And then I'll do my best to bring them into the discussion. Okay, with that, let's start with the fundamentals. And Bas, let me start with you. For years, outsourcing fulfillment to a 3PL has been almost the default growth strategy for many companies. And from your perspective and your experience as a consultant, why do companies outsource in the first place?
All right. Well, you outsource logistics because it's become more complicated, right? So ever since, the economies were globalizing and demands were increasing, it's become more of a complex, specialized trade. So specialized companies called 3PLs actually started, building solutions and value propositions that would help customers with their logistics. There's a couple of sort of four basically main components to the value proposition of a 3PL. And I think the biggest one is always the variable cost. If you have to set up your own warehouse or get your own trucks, you have to build it, buy it for your specific needs, and you pay actually way too much because often your needs are not big enough to warranty costs. So making costs variable, only pay for what you use, made a lot of sense. It also makes you scalable, right? You already mentioned that, Dennis, but scalability, if you have a variable cost structure, you can grow and still be competitive, and your cost per unit will be pretty much constant. A big one also is that, by getting to a 3PL, and this is becoming more and more important with, technology and all these type of things emerging, is that you get access to that. You don't have to invest in a WMS or a TMS or other systems that help you optimize your supply chain. A big one also, I would say, is that that was always the key selling point when I was as a 3PL myself back in the day, is that customers can actually focus on their core business. You make your own product, you sell your product, and as a 3PL would take care of the rest. I think that was always the big one. And essentially, those four components have not lost their value. Especially for SMEs, I think that makes a lot of sense. But you got to keep your eyes open and make sure that you still you always have the right reasons to outsource, and you keep an eye on how things are going.
Okay, thanks. And Otto, if we look at this from a 3PL provider's perspective, what do you see as the biggest value that you can create for your customers?
Now, mainly for us, it's not really about just picking and warehousing storage. It's also about helping companies to go into new markets or enter new sales channels, or having flexibility during growth and during peak. Yeah, so when it matters, be there, help them grow, make them the successful deliveries. Also look at outside of the traditional warehousing, where, for example, we have a customer from China. They were selling bikes on the European market, but then there were anti-dumping duties came in. And we chat with them and they said, okay, there's an opportunity if we do the assembly in Europe, we can actually take off a large part of the duties for you. So kind of organize a win-win, so they have less cost. We have a nice customer and help them grow in Europe. Whereas actually they got more business because of that, because they had a local European entity, and they could actually sell the bikes as made in Holland rather than made in China, which gave them a lot of trust and a lot of growth opportunities just by thinking outside of the box. So that's how we. I think that's how we create a lot of value for in the supply chain.
Interesting example, and then suddenly you are in the biking industry.
We just
probably not
as
a plan originally, but it sounds super interesting. Actually, we have to we promised to focus a little on the what should you say, the dark side, the problems with the 3PL. So let's move a little into this topic. And Bas, in your work, you sometimes see companies leave the 3PL or maybe change to another one. And I'm curious to hear, what are the main reasons that partnerships break?
Yeah. Well, the main reason is actually many reasons, right? So we do about between 1 and 2 dozen brands, outsourcing trajectories a year. And, they come to us for a variation of reasons, right? And some of them are just basically because, their business has grown, the market is changing, they're going into new markets. So they need a new warehouse somewhere else, or they want to change a warehouse, they outgrow the warehouse. So these are just purely, I would say business evolution type reasons. The other side also, you see companies that are actually unhappy. And not so much because there's not a lack of space or all this stuff, but they're unhappy with the service. The inventory is not really there. Service failures, visibility is not always what they're expecting. So that's a big driver when people are unhappy with the services. And then actually there is sort of a mix, not so much unhappy with the services, but they expect more. Right? They bought into the dream that 3PLs are the experts in the industry and they have the right technology and all that stuff, but they don't really see it in their everyday relationship. I think technology typically is where they think their 3PL is not really working out. And then a fourth and also very important category is that they often come to us because the relationship has sort of deteriorate a little bit. They're no longer happy with the people that they work with. Not just technology, but sometimes billing goes off, and then there's no clear agreements. KPIs are not really well defined. So they're really sort of like a marriage. The marriage is having some issues, and they're falling apart. I think those typically are the 4 main categories that we see, and they sometimes are in a mix, but they all need to be addressed for their own merits in solutions.
Yeah, okay. So the problem can be on both sides, and that leads me to you, Otto. If you look at this same question from the 3PL side, how does it look for you as a 3PL provider?
Yeah, of course, it's very similar to what Bas said, but a lot of it's about expectations. Yeah, so it actually starts before the actual operation. So we look at, okay, how is the documentation done? So what kind of agreements do we set up? What are cutoff times? What about orders? What about volume, etc., etc.? How do we work on flexibility? How do we manage your customers? Because a lot of times there's customer-specific deliveries. Have they been communicated? So there's a lot of things you can avoid prior to starting actually an operation, which has a huge kick on performance. Another topic is that a lot of times, and especially with the SMEs, you never know how much you will grow at the beginning. So sometimes when that's not clear and you're doing, let's say, 200 times the volume, which is great, but let's communicate about it, and let's not be that a surprise to everyone. So it's all about communication, and it's also not just about the warehousing and picking and packing. It's also about transportation management. It's about data visibility. Yeah. So how do we integrate with your systems? Do you have real-time inventory access? A lot of them have different systems for B2B and B2C. So how do you connect them? Now, for us, that's really a trigger to invest in system and data transparency. So I think that's once you have that all in place, then the relationship itself makes a big difference, because they have real-time visibility of everything that goes on in the warehouse, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, but that leads nicely to the next topic, and I'm also obviously this is a topic that interests me a lot as a person working with integrations, because as you already mentioned, it's very important to have the systems integration and data visibility in place, but how important, and let's dive a little more into the details of that. And Bas, maybe we should start from a brand perspective.
Yeah, thank you. I think Otto was already addressing sort of the key points there, right? So it's in today's logistics, IT, technology, integration, data. I mean, that's the game, right? I mean, if you physical execution, you got to have a good warehouse and a good truck and all that stuff, but you got to have systems and integration that actually mesh well with the ERP systems, with the other systems that a customer is or a brand is operating with, and you also see that that's an expectation. Like when I started off with working with brands and from a 3PL perspective, it was often about get the POD done, get sort of make sure my inventory every year is something I can present to my accounting firm, and it didn't go much beyond that, right? I mean, orders had to be fulfilled. You want to get a nice report, you get some nice dashboard at some point, but nowadays it's like it becomes part of a business strategy. If you don't have the right data or the right information at the right time, you become a reactive company. You can't make change. Well, you need to make change when the problem is there. So getting timely information has been, I think, the biggest change in demand from a brand perspective. And when you look at the sort of problems we're having, is that integration sometimes is taken for granted. People say, let's do a couple of EDI messages and we're good to go, right? And then turns out that the plan that initially was there to make the integration expand on different EDI messages or even other communication structures, it sort of never really gets addressed, right? They stick with the old tool, the tool from the beginning, and then discover that this may not be what they're looking for. I think also one of the things I would like to address on integration is that when you set up a 3PL relationship and a brand, it's something that if you would have to sort of single out one item that goes wrong with implementations, it's integration. It always takes long. People are not really defining what they need. Often problems that continue in a relationship all come back to another regional relationship, and sometimes already goes sour, because if you have a bad implementation, it's just not a good start of the marriage, right? So that's really important. It's also an interesting trend that I would like to point out that I see now, is that you see more and more brands actually also getting more disappointed with 3PLs that have technology that may be outdated in their perspective, and they start getting their own solutions. They want to build sidecar applications that actually take care of some things, or transportation management that helps in the relationship with the 3PL. It can be cool, but it also doesn't really help the optimization. So it's definitely a changing landscape in technology expectations on a 3PL side.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned AI, and I think we will leave that for one of the upcoming webinars, because otherwise we will go over time, because I know it's something that you can talk about, Bas. But leaving that, Otto, at Rapid, how do you approach this technology question, whether you, among other topics, that should you go with your setup, or do you sometimes go with the customer setup, or how do you approach this?
No, we are really in a hybrid situation. So we know, especially when companies are starting up, their integration is, they need a partner for the integration. And of course, we can help with it. And setting up a Shopify is quite easy. But we offer a model where we either operate on our WMS, we can operate on the customer's WMS if he has an existing operation where he already runs it on, or if he works on Oracle or something else, SAP. But that's you don't see it with SMEs. So it's more about how do you work and integrate. But the integration does give a lot of benefits. If you're on our WMS, we can do a lot more with robotics. We can do a lot more with AI, with the data. So if we share the data, there's much more optimization opportunity together. So now we look at it in different ways. So for us, it's about supporting the customer, giving them an easy landing, and then improve and develop from there onwards.
Mm-hmm. So hybrid, I hear, is the most common way to go.
Hybrid is a nice option,
with quite a lot of focus on your systems.
Yeah. But it's a lot of companies are lacking resources to do the integration, so we can help them with that, and they can work on our system. They can do order entry on our system, whatever. But it's always nicer to be integrated with your partners.
Yeah, and I can just add from my experience for brands setting up with 3PLs, it often comes as a surprise because. Of course, you know what to do on your side. You have seen this obviously many times, but maybe a brand is new to 3PL or at least not very experienced, and then if they put out an RFP or somehow engage with an IT provider, they often forget about integration, and it comes as a surprise at the last minute, and then also as we know. If you come with something for a provider, be it at home with a carpenter or in this case with an IT provider, if the last minute things are the most expensive. So that's something I see quite often, that they didn't really specify the integration part from the beginning.
Yeah. Especially if you have to integrate with an ERP system that's different from a standard solution, that makes it more costly because then people have to develop specific systems and integration. So
yeah, exactly. But Bas, so this question that I started out with, should we bring it back in-house or should we outsource it, or should we use a hybrid model? Just for the last topic here today, let's talk a little bit about this. How do you guide companies through this decision?
Yeah, I think that it starts off, I think that has come up a few times today in the call already, is that, you got to know what you want to do, right? You got to have a strategy before you make strategy change. I think that's important. So, having done that, I would say there's a couple of options. You have either an in-house solution, which, makes sense if you have a very specific product or very specific circumstances that you have to, like maybe it's dangerous goods or it has a product that is, you have a lot of value add that needs to be done. Things have to be adjusted to the product well in inventory and before fulfillment. I think those are cases that have a valid, pure in-house sort of valid solution for that. Most people actually underestimate what it takes to run a warehouse, to have the system. So I think, outsourcing in one way, either a hybrid or a pure outsourced 3PL solution is the best way to go for most companies. I think that's I would, for the reasons that Otto already, mentioned on the hybrid solutions, it's not the first solution I would go for, but try to get a pure 3PL solution and then, hybrid where necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also, what is like the ratio? What do you see most often?
It really depends. If it's very strategic stock, for customers, they would typically want to give their own warehouse, which we can support them with. Yeah, it's, if you look at hybrid, there's different version of hybrid, but then hybrid is saying they rent space from us and they do their own operation. We can help them with the people, but they do their own stuff. But mostly they outsource their operation through a 3PL like Rapid or to have discussions with to see how we can help them. If they really want to do it themselves, then we can provide space as well. But it really depends on the strategic intellectual property or whatever. If you need to do something quite in configuration that they want to control themselves, we have a lot of customers that rent space from us, and we build a nice cage, and they do whatever they like in there.
Yeah, I could imagine also, and that's from our own it's a bit comparable that maybe the customer is a bit nervous from the beginning, and then if you get a good relation, then you can move maybe more in the outsourced direction along the way. Is that something you see?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how about you, Bas? When for some reason this brand they say, okay, we got to do something about this 3PL setup. Maybe we should have one, or maybe we should change. But what should they evaluate? And you also already mentioned you should have a strategy. But what should they evaluate before making any major changes?
Yeah, I think the strategy is important. What do you want? What do you expect? It's also, I don't think often, in most cases, sort of insourcing is not your first reaction when 3PL goes wrong, right? I would say first trying to figure out what goes wrong, why does it go wrong? In most cases, I think if it's, a different 3PL is probably a better answer than insourcing, right? So make a change. So an RFP makes sense. But I also really want to point out something that is not always addressed, right? I mean, you can also fix the relationship, and it's often surprising how often relationships have just deteriorating, and maybe some relation therapy between the 3PL and a brand actually makes sense, right? So we see sometimes it happens during the RFP process because you got a big shock. Oh, the customer is leaving, then the 3PL wants to talk and be creative, and often they have to reduce their rates in that process. So if you can fix the quality issues instead of dropping your rates, that's always a good thing. So some relationship therapy, I think, makes sense. And it often is successful, right? The other point is that if you do decide to go to market and find another 3PL or a new 3PL or your first 3PL, then don't underestimate it. Most management teams don't actually do this every time, right? They do it once or twice in their careers. They have to do this besides their day job, right? So it's a big investment of time and effort, and you cannot afford to do this less than perfect, right? Because the impact of a bad 3PL is such a disaster for your brand, for your sales, for your reputation. So consider getting some help if you don't have the resources in house, and companies that are out there like Fix Logistix, I can help you with that, but it's don't want to make this into a commercial, but getting some help often makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about you, Otto? Have you ever been in couples therapy with a customer, especially?
No, yeah, 100%. I agree with Bas. We're in the person's business, right? It's all people handling orders, handling parcels. We have to take care of your equipment, and we have to like each other in a way. If you don't like each other, it's like you're not my friend, and I will not spend time and effort in it. So I do agree with Bas. There's a lot of effort. Sometimes it's easy by just not replacing a person, but just working with the person and see how we can do things differently. But on the other end, an RFP sometimes helps to get new insights. There's something you have not discussed with your current 3PL. You can find new things, new ways of doing things. So there's always an effort, it challenges the current 3PL. It challenges your new potential partner. I always like it because it gives an opportunity to shine and to be different.
Yeah. And maybe a question for both of you. You can decide who will answer first. But in order to not end up in the sofa with Bas as a therapist. How could you nurture this relationship so it doesn't go like that?
Otto,
I think
how
it's
about
really
you?
about
Yeah.
I think it's really about having the right agreements, having frequent reviews, having fun as well. Have fun with your customer, right? Let's go out for dinner. Let's take it out. Just not only focus on the work, and it's a people's business. So, and people need attention, and so we'll make it work. Yeah, that's the best. That's always the best remedy.
It's a people's business. I like that. How about you, Bas? Anything?
It is a people's business. It's also a business where you have to be accountable. So I think it's a combination of the relationship between the persons at multiple levels in an account relationship, executive level, daily management level, and the levels in between. But I also think it's important, if you have defined the KPIs, as Otto was mentioning, you have to actually do something with that, right? So we always recommend have a quarterly business review or a monthly review, whatever you think is doable and also something you can keep up. But it's if you don't measure your results of the partnership, you will never get to that continuous improvement relationship. So I think that's very important to keep the relationship healthy, is to make sure everybody's accountable, that we are all eyes open in the relationship, and then the partnership will happen. So in the old days, it was just having a steak and a pint, and we would do another year, right? But nowadays also you need to do both the relationship, sort of quality of the relationship, but also the quality of the accountability between both parties. And then, you talk about what's happening in your world and how can we be better partners in the future, and what else are you going to do? I think that's important.
Technology goes so fast, right, Bas? And technology goes so fast, so you have to have the discussion with your customer. How are we going to deploy this new technology? How do you look at it? How do we integrate? So if you don't do it, you will miss a chance, and you will end up in a situation where you don't want to be.
When they go RFP on you, it's too late, right, Otto? Then actually you've missed the boat, because then you have to really crawl and probably drop your rates a little bit.
So actually what I hear here, and I agree, I see that in our business as well, a hybrid approach where you have like the formal meetings, the KPIs, the reports and so on, but you also have don't forget it's a people's business, and even though it's old school, go out and have a steak and a pint and get a chance to hear all the other stuff and what's coming and what is this, how does it actually feel, I really think that's a good one to end on, that even though we have great systems, we have great integration, hopefully, otherwise you're free to call. But it's still it's a people's business, and don't forget to nurture the relationship on a personal level as well. So with that said, thank you both, great insights, and I think the conclusion is it's not simple. It's not just yes or no, whether you should outsource. Maybe it's a hybrid.
And Dennis, I just saw one question from Oscar in the Q&A.
Okay. Strange, I didn't see, but can you read it?
Any input in the case to use one 3PL partner or multiple one if the company operates in different countries, a unique one in each country? Any thoughts about this?
Yeah, we can take that right now. I think we have time for it. So briefly, what do you think?
In my view, the more complex it becomes, because you have to manage more partners. And I think there's a way to use a 3PL partner in one country that optimizes your flows to all those different countries. There's a lot of opportunities with local in-feeds, using the local experts. But at least you have your inventory. If you have inventory in one place, it makes it much more easy to actually redistribute it. You can assign it to a country, specific country. You can hold stock for a specific country, but if the market goes up or down, you want to move inventory quickly between them. And if you have to move it from outside of the country, and especially if it's non-EU, you're doing a lot of things. You're adding a lot of costs, which makes it more complex in a way. But that's maybe, Bas, what do you think?
Yeah, I think also, it depends a bit where you stand with your own technology, right? If you as a brand or a shipper have strong technology, you have an ERP system that is really well set up, you actually have good integrations with all your 3PLs, then it really doesn't matter, right? If you really try to sort of lean on the skills of your 3PLs, because your own internal setup is not really there where it should be, and you don't have that visibility well organized, then it's helpful that the 3PL actually is one system of truth that they can offer for your inventory and solutions in different geographies. For our US customers, we often see they have a West Coast, East Coast model, right? Because the US has this big empty in the middle. And, we have very successful companies that do different 3PLs on each coast, but we also have companies that struggle with that. And we recommend that you go with a 3PL that's actually active on one platform, one WMS on both coasts. Going multi-country, I think there's other things as well. So it's the more you want to outsource because you don't have it yourself, then I would say one partner for multiple locations. If you have the strength in-house to run your global platform, I would say it's no problem to have multiple 3PLs, as long as they're professionals and they integrate well. So integration, Dennis, is back to your world. If you integrate well, you can actually work with many, many partners. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also relates to volume. Sorry for that. If you have a lot of volumes and service promise, if you want to ship 100,000 orders to Germany from the Netherlands, it doesn't really make sense. Yeah, Netherlands is a wrong example, but if you're from Netherlands to Spain, if you have 100,000 shipments a day or a week, yeah, I would rather set something up in Spain, because then you can have a better service level, lower your transportation cost. The impact of transportation cost is huge. On the cost of logistics is typically smaller than the cost of the transportation. So it's a very important topic to consider.
Okay, thank you. We better round off because time is up. And thank you, Oscar, for the question. Great question and great answers, Otto and Bas. And thank you for sharing your perspectives today. And thank you to everyone who attended. And if there are any remaining questions, feel free to send them over after the event. And also if you're listening, watching the recording, also feel free to send questions in our direction and we'll get back to you. So with that said, see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.